Hey everybody, Ross here, and this is Bible Study Superstar. If this is your first time visiting this channel, click here to go back to the intro, or if you would just be interested to see what's been happening recently, click here to go back to Genesis 3. And as always, you can get the transcripts for each episode in the first link in the description. So without further ado, I'm going to just jump straight into Genesis 4, verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock, and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth. And Cain said to the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth. And it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehejuel, and Mehejuel begot Methushael, and Methushael begot Lamech. Then Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who played harp and flute. As for Zillah, she bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Then Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, listen to my speech. For I have killed a man for wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then Lamech 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. Now it's worth noting, as we start this chapter, that the first person to have been recorded as being born in the world is also the world's first murderer, which is Cain. Now why was Cain's offering rejected and Abel's offering accepted? The simple answer to that is that God had given specific instructions that whenever sacrifice was to be given, it was to be an animal sacrifice. Now, to further explain that in detail, you may recall in the Genesis 3 video that I had said that sin could only be covered with the shed blood of an innocent. In the Old Testament, this shed blood was the blood of animals, and the sacrifices needed to happen again and again. These sacrifices needed to be repeated like this for two main reasons. The first was that these sacrifices only provided a temporary covering for the sins of the people, and that's assuming that the person offering the sacrifice's heart was right before God. The other and more primary reason for the sacrifices, though, was to point forward to what Jesus Christ would do on the cross, to permanently cover the sins of mankind and reconnect God and man. So, Cain's sacrifice was rejected because he refused to honor God by pointing forward to what Christ would do. And the only way he could point forward to what Christ would do is through an animal sacrifice. So I hope that better explains that. Now, when Cain's sacrifice was rejected, he allowed the anger in his heart to build up to hatred against Abel, and eventually to the actual murder of his brother, which is the first murder in recorded history. Now, when God asked Cain what he had done and where his brother was, he of course wasn't asking him because he didn't know. He's God, he knows everything. Just like Adam and Eve, he was asking directly because he was giving Cain an opportunity to confess what he had done. And Cain, just like his parents before him, tried to shift the blame away from himself by saying that his brother was never his concern and never his responsibility. But Abel's blood was crying out against Cain to the Lord. But what did it cry out exactly? Just like our sin, Abel's blood was crying out against Cain and accusing him of what he had done and demanding justice. So God justly cursed Cain by making the ground no longer yield for him and to make it very unwise for anyone to kill him in vengeance. But even though God was punishing Cain, he was still willing to be merciful because Cain had cried out that his punishment would be too much for him to bear. So God made it to where that instead of Cain being hunted and killed for his crime by the rest of the people of the world, he made it to where Cain would have to live with himself in his guilt by, again, making it very unwise for anyone to kill Cain in vengeance. So after Cain leaves, we see his descendants, who end up becoming the first cattlemen, musicians, and metalworkers. And next we see the story of Lamech. And this shows that there have been no other recorded instances of man killing man, except in Cain and his descendants. This could easily show that this was the first family curse in history. And finally, why did men begin to call on the name of the Lord after Enoch's birth? I'm going to have to read from my notes pretty heavily on this one, so please forgive the glare on the glasses. But anyway, to try and discover this, I searched for the meaning of the name Enosh. It means to be desperate, woeful, and very sick in its verb form, which is Anash. The Ha Theological Workbook of the Old Testament notes that this verb form is, quote, most frequently used to describe a wound or pain which is incurable, end quote. The Jones Dictionary of Old Testament proper names defines Enosh as, quote, man frail and miserable, end quote. The Knobs Study Bible name list defines it as, quote, mortal, end quote. Seth was showing the people through his son's name the frail, miserable, desperate, woeful, very sick, incurable, and mortal state they were in because of their sin, and likely followed this up by declaring the ability and sufficiency of the Lord to be able to save them. It's also possible that Enosh himself used his name's meaning to show others their sinful condition and lead them back to God. And in all, this shows that we should use anything and everything that we have for the glory of God, even if it's just the meaning of our name. And with that, that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments or feedbacks, let me know in the comment section below. And thanks again for watching, and I will see you all soon in Genesis 5.